You know, we love talking about intuition, energy, and healing. So we can't wait to introduce you to intuitive energy healer and Reiki master practitioner, Julie Rhea. Julie began her holistic energy healing journey over 25 years ago and has studied many healing modalities to better understand how and why universal energy flows and ultimately help others heal themselves. Like many of you, Julie has experienced life, insurmountable loss, sadness, and physical pain. And through it all, she gained tremendous insight and discovered the power of gratitude and love. She now helps others do the same. She combines traditional coaching techniques with intuitive insights and healing to help you gain clarity, set meaningful goals, and take inspired action. Whether you're seeking to improve relationships, enhance your career, or cultivate inner peace, Julie meets you where you are. Karen and I both experienced powerful energy healing sessions with Julie and can't wait to discuss her healing journey, as well as the different modalities that may be what you need to know now. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Robyn. Hi, Karen.
So tell us what led you to begin this holistic journey over 25 years ago.
It started in university, actually. I would get this strange knowing hits every once in a while, knowing I was going to see someone that I knew was, say, living 3 hours away. And I would think, oh, I'm going to see that person, and thinking, oh, I have to ask them about this and this. And sure enough, later that day, to my surprise, there they were. So it was these little things. I also have always known the sex of a baby, like when a woman is pregnant, and I've never been wrong.
Wow.
Ever.
Amazing.
Now it doesn't matter so much because they can test and they know. But before, way back when, that was a cool thing. And along that, like one of my brothers had 3 girls in a row. And one day I just said, you know what? You're going to have a boy. And he goes, no. And sure enough, he did. And when you do tell people these things, they call you at 5 o'clock in the morning and say, Jules, you were right. Yeah. Or just strange things where I had dreamt about people, an uncle, and I dreamt that he was saying goodbye to me. And the next day I found out that he had just passed. So things like this all kind of culminated in really wanting to be connected with archangels and my angels and guides. I was just trying to figure all this stuff out. I had no clue how to contact them. I had no clue how to recreate this sense of knowing. And I wanted to know what the purpose of it all was. Like, why should I have any ability at all and never use it? So I think that was really my reason to go. And then after that, I saw a psychic. And
so how old are you at that point?
So I was in my 20s, and then this was 25 years ago, a little bit more than that, because I was pregnant with my son. And I went to see the psychic. And as soon as I walked in the door, she goes, oh, what kind of healer are you? And I said, I want to be.
Wow.
Yeah. And talked a lot about that. She saw me healing people, helping people, which was very exciting to me. And I asked her, is this going to be a long, hard journey to learn everything? And she said, it's going to take time. What she did was she guided me. She said, go research different modalities and see what calls to you. So for me, it was Reiki. So that's what I started with.
Reiki is like the gateway for a lot of people.
Is.
Totally. And prior to, let's say, that early 20s age, had it ever come up in terms of talking about any of this with your family or your friends, and were you telling them when you started having these little psychic hits?
I was always curious because my paternal grandmother, they were in Italy and there was no phone. It wasn't like you could call right away. But when one of my brothers was born, she actually called my parents and said, oh, the name, the sex, she knew everything. She just knew. And so that always got me intrigued. It's like, how does that happen? Why does that happen? To be part of that, God, I'd like some of that.
Earlier about going to see a psychic, was there something specific that you were looking for in terms of information, and why a psychic?
I wanted some kind of spiritual teacher to help me understand, and if she could have given me any more information, I guess to further what was happening, to help learn. And so I ended up reading a ton of books, like everything out there. I just read and read. And in those days, if you were lucky, it came with a cassette in the back, the guided meditation. And I just learned and learned.
Wow. And really 25 years ago, there weren't a ton of people to talk to or easy ways to find others that were also interested because it was before the internet.
You had a bookstore if you were lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
And Julie, you mentioned also angels and guides. What did you know about angels and guides, and how are you looking to connect with them?
So I've always been religious, just knowing that the angels were around us all the time. I always felt that I was protected and held. And I remember one time driving to an event, and I have no idea how I didn't get into an accident, except that I felt like my car had been moved over. And it was bad driving on my part, but very lucky. Have you ever had that happen where it's just
I
like,
have actually. Yeah.
You felt like you were protected and you avoided an accident. Mhm.
Yeah, there's another force basically
Yeah.
at play.
yeah,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Okay, so then you start down the Reiki journey and what
yes.
happens? Because I feel like Karen mentioned a lot of times it's this gateway into these other modalities and also of this real discovery of your own abilities. Like it's a validation of them in some ways. And then it becomes a catalyst for you then to help others heal themselves. So how was that for you?
For me, my daughter was 3 years old and I had a newborn son. So Reiki was my most accessible thing, as Karen's saying. It's the gateway, right? So I took my level 1 and then my level 2, and I used it. I used it constantly. I used it on my kids. I just did all that kind of stuff. And then I stopped. I stopped because I didn't think I was ready. But before then, a lot of amazing things happened. I remember my daughter came home from preschool, which is, as we all know, a cesspool of germs. Her ears were hurting and she looked feverish. And this is a child who hasn't napped since she was about 10 months. Okay. I tucked her into bed and then I Reiki'd her ears and she slept till the next morning, waking up. I'm ready to go to school, like really happy and just feeling great. And we went to school and I found out that one of her little friends that she was playing with was sick. And this other little girl ended up being sick for 3 weeks with an ear infection.
Wow.
Some people could say, oh, my daughter didn't really have anything wrong with her, but my
Yeah.
child wanted to nap when she never wanted to nap was just something I
You
knew.
knew. And the other thing I just want to point out for those listening right now who haven't heard our podcast before and who don't know what Reiki is, can you just give a simple explanation for that?
Sure. It's a energy healing modality that uses symbols to bring in universal life force. And that is the healing energy that is everywhere and that we can use to help ourselves and others. And what Reiki does is it uses the energy centers, all the chakras. And what we do is we clear those chakras and then fill them up with energy. And that makes us feel better.
That's a beautiful way of putting
Reiki
it.
in its
No,
Yeah.
I'm so happy you asked that question, Robyn, because I think for so many, and there are different practitioners who actually practice it in slightly different ways.
Yeah, and for those listening, you don't actually touch anybody when you're doing Reiki. You can
No.
do Reiki virtually, so you don't actually even have to be in person. And when you are in person, the practitioner isn't touching you. Julie, you just are hovering your hands, and yet you can really feel the energy. There's an electricity. In my mind, it's all colors that are coming out of someone's hand. However, you can feel it's like a ball of energy coming out, helping to balance and heal someone else's energy.
Yeah. And sometimes people will feel heat. Sometimes they'll feel like a buzzing, almost say when your hand falls asleep, that kind of pins and needles. Sometimes people don't feel anything, but then they'll start weeping and they're like, I'm sorry, I'm crying. And it's totally normal.
When I was a kid, when my mom's a Reiki master, and one of the things, it was like one of my first introductions to energy because she actually had me feel like along an aura of a human, my sister or my dog. And you could literally feel the difference in temperature from where you were warm. It was technically a healthy area of the body, but where things got colder, it meant that maybe things needed a little bit more healing or attention from the body. And it really was the first tangible opportunity that I had to really experience what that healing modality experience could be. And the fact that you can't see it, but you can feel it.
Yes. And it's interesting. I do see color now. I see it in my mind, but my mother, she's passed away, but she used to have terrible arthritis and her arthritic hands were just horrible and gnarled. And so I would give Reiki to her hands. And one day when I did it, all of the liquid, like all of the fluid in her veins drained. And we're both watching this in It was just like it was all just leaving her hand and just getting taken care of by the rest of her body. And I said, Mom, how does it feel? And she's, it feels much better. So again, these are these little tidbits of things that help me to keep on that path.
Yes. And I think the other reminder for everybody is that we are made of energy, which we talk about all the time. And so for you, the listener, or you, the person watching us right now, you are made of energy. And sometimes that energy is just out of balance and needs that restoration or needs to be cleared because you've picked up someone else's energy. And that's what Reiki can help do, is clear you and rebalance you. And so sometimes just remind yourself that yes, you have this body that you can see and you can feel, but within it, there are these energy centers, and so much healing can take place when you are with a practitioner that can help you with that. And these are things that you can learn yourself as well.
And along that, I always tell people, though, sometimes when you want to speak your truth, for example, and you get that heaviness in your throat, and then later on that day, you might have a frog in your throat, or you might have laryngitis develop. And it's very interesting because that is a sign of a blocked throat chakra. And so these are the examples. And when I tell people about, oh, that's happened to me before, that's part of what I try to teach people too, is like what's going on in your body,
Yes.
clear it. And that's how we stay healthy.
So once you learned Reiki and then you said you took a break, what reawakened you in terms of wanting to go back to it and or learning more?
It was just time. And it was interesting when I decided it was time to do it, all my schedules opened up, everything worked to perfection because we would meet every other week. And it was just so great. Like I was meant to be there.
And where did that then lead you in terms of developing your own intuitive skills along with the energy healing? Tell us what that looked like.
So I guess I was very disappointed in Reiki. And this is my experience. It's not everyone's experience. Reiki is a very beautiful modality. But for me, I found that I wasn't experiencing enough. And I came to the point where if I'm going to be a healer, I'm going to be a good one, but I have to figure out how to get there. I did more reading and now the internet is up. So this is a great thing. So I took several classes with different healers and learned about energy. And as much as I could, I just gathered. And then about 3 years ago, my brother passed away and I needed to find purpose and understanding. And I just needed more. So I discovered Christine Lang, who is an intuitive energy healer, right? And an amazing medical intuitive. And she's been on your podcast. And after even the first class with her, my first attunement, everything was just exponentially stronger. My intuition, my ability to heal, every aspect was just stronger and more. And then in the final attunement, a lot of things happened. I realized that this is not my first lifetime as a healer. That was a very interesting experience. And I was able to connect with my spirit. And should I explain?
Please, listen, we talk about it all. Yes.
Yeah. The way Christine Lang explains it is it's the part between the ego and the soul. And if you were to draw two circles joining, that middle piece is your spirit. So in making this connection, I've been able to have better healings for my clients, for myself, and I've been able to connect with my guides and really get more visual, more audible. Everything is awakened. I'll get like a little word.
It's like an attunement, right? There's something that shifts in your ability to be able to hear, experience, feel based on that experience. I know what you mean. And I hope that people who are listening can hear that too, because I think the seeker in us is looking for that thing that helps us to be able to experience more. And it sounds like that's exactly what it was for you.
Yeah. And I think learning all this, once I was at this point after learning from Christine Lang and calling myself an intuitive energy healer, I felt confident in my ability and worthy of the ability because I could actually do something with it.
And I have several questions, actually. So
I know.
hold on. Okay. First, I just want to further define attunement. I'm glad you brought
Okay.
that up again, Karen, because I know there's the attunement in terms of, you were just saying, Karen, which is what it is, right? It is this aligning with and shifting of energy. When you talk about that in relation to what your work with Christine, can you explain what you meant?
And it happens to some degree with Reiki as well. Okay. So
Yes.
I'm just going to speak to my experience with Christine. So what'll happen is symbols will go through the crown chakra, and they might be symbols that are specific to the person receiving the attunement, depending on what their healing will be, what their purpose will be as a healer. If you deal with animals, you might get something that is specific to animals. Someone dealing with people's overwhelm, which that seems to be me, might get something different. So it all depends whether your experience is going to be with children or with the elderly or all these different things. So it's a universal gift that comes down, and it's specific to that attunement, that person.
Thank you. I think that's very helpful. And then I did want to go back to your brother, that loss in this lifetime. Was that unexpected?
Oh, it was totally unexpected. And to make it even worse is 3 months before my cousin passed away, before I was 50. And then a week before my brother Joe passed away, my uncle did. So we had 3 people in our family, and I was very close to Joe. He was everything to me.
I have the chills. I can feel that. I can feel that from you.
He was my, here I go. It's been 3 years. But it was very difficult for me to understand why it was all happening. And of course, there's 2 sides of me. There's my human side where I'm grieving and I want my brother back and I want to hold him. And that loss of not being able to embrace that warmth, the conversations, all those wonderful things that we experience as humans. But then as a spiritual teacher, side of me looks at it, I see my brother in a beautiful place. His soul has no pain. He has no worry. Everything is perfect. And what I also know is that I can call on him and talk to him anytime I want.
Yes, that's right.
And there's a song that just reminds me of him. And I forget what it's called, but I'll be driving down the road and I'll be thinking, oh, should I have done that? Something to do with him. And the song will come on. I'm like, oh, come on.
I love that.
And it's not like a typical song you'd hear.
Oh, and this is so important for people to hear, because most of us in our lifetimes, most people will go through some sort of really heavy loss. And I know the 3 of us within this conversation, we've all had some very tremendous losses in our lives.
And I just want to add here, the words that you were using just hit me because of this conversation. The words pass away, people use that term a lot, but it almost evokes this sense of slow transition. And when people that we love transition very quickly, it's not a passing away. It's like they're gone. And the trauma that we have to your point, Julie, yes, you've got your one side of your brain that's, okay, I know they're in a better place and all that stuff. But the other part is your very human side that says, wait, whoa, no time to process or talk or give those goodbyes that a lot of us are really wanting to have. So I think that's the other side of it too. As we grieve, it is a very valid part of us that it's like, it's not really they're passing away. It's that they're out of our lives.
Gone so quickly. Yes.
Yeah. And there's something about, I was just having this conversation yesterday with my daughter about loss, because she was reading a book that was about tremendous loss, and it was triggering her and her emotions. She's a deeply empathic person and soul. And she really needed to share it with me because she couldn't keep it to herself anymore. She had read this book, it was impacting her. And when she was telling me about the book, and it happened to be about a son who lost a father very suddenly. And I'm someone who, like you, Julie, and like Karen, we have these 2 sides of each other. And so I have this very human side of myself, and I have this very spiritual side of myself. And the human side of myself, when my daughter was talking about this, was very triggered by the loss of, when she was talking about the son losing his father. And I'm someone who talks to my dad in spirit every single day, multiple times a day. And yet hearing the story and the way he lost his dad was so reminiscent of the tragedy that I experienced as a child. And so it's that duality of living in both a 3D world and then also living in the spiritual world. And then knowing at this point in my life, for me, it was all on purpose so that I could be doing what I'm doing now. And for you to have that, we just started talking about your brother and the emotion that came over you. And yet the knowing that you could talk to him all the time. It's yes and yes. Yes, you're still going to feel the emotions. And yes, the knowing that they've just changed form, but we still miss them.
Yes.
Because we can't hug them.
Yeah.
So how did your brother's passing impact the work that you do and the belief system that you have now, Julie?
It took me a little time to just get through everything. And I just found ways of really grounding myself all the time. I was on the seeking mission, seeking center, funny. I was on this mission to figure out how to make myself feel better. I would meditate, pray. I would spend time in nature, even just taking my shoes and socks off and standing in the grass. It's just a great way of connecting and grounding. Of course, my favorite is an Epsom salt bath. Lots of those, because you do have to get through the grieving and be able to continue to live.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is that it seems to me that this intuitive energy healing practice that you've now cultivated and that you feel more comfortable in identifying with, it's that making it your own, right? Whereas Reiki, it's a more prescribed formula in many ways.
Absolutely. I always found that Reiki put me in a box. And respectfully saying this, whereas using my intuition, I still ground myself. There's still needs for clearing and protecting. You do all those. Every single energy practitioner, no matter what the modality, will always do the grounding and the clearing and the protection of themselves and the people they're working on. But I just found that I made myself free to use my imagination enough to get me to where I needed to go. I have a client who's an inventor. And so for her, when I'm trying to give her a visual, I give her visuals that she can understand or just relate to. When I tell her to clear herself, I tell her, imagine that you are, there's one of those pegboards to hang tools. So whatever is going to clear you, whether it's water or wind or whatever, is going to go right through her. And some people would prefer Swiss cheese or
Right.
sponge, or so it's all kind of that. And ultimately when I learned that the universe, God, was telling me that it was divine timing, not my timing, to when
Right.
all this was going to happen.
That's right. That's right.
And I notice when we work together, it's like you're tuning forks. Oh, okay, I can go there and I can get a sense of what this person might have going on.
What I'll do is I will ask my spirit and guides about what I can know about the person. And so sometimes I will get some great information. So actually that happened with a young athlete that I had a session with, and she was a volleyball player and was having difficulty with her feet. I tuned in and I did a meditation, and I had a couple things come through. One was I saw this foot going into, it was just like a plunge into a foot bath. And then a question said, ask her if she's icing or applying heat. And then the other one was just a sports injury clinic sort of thing. In our conversations, one thing that was emphatic was that she needed to be a participant in her own healing. So all these, and of course, like teenagers, yeah, it's happening, just fix it. They want to play and do their thing and go on with it. So during the session, I tried to make it very clear to her and her mom that it was so important for her to be a participant. So when I asked her if she had been icing, she said, I do it on occasion. I said, so you're playing almost like a 12-hour day of volleyball and you're not coming home and icing it or icing it in the morning? No. Okay. So this had to happen. And the message that I gotten about the icing was almost, ask her if she's icing it. I'm not a medical intuitive. I say, go to a sports injury clinic, ask them for what the best protocol is for your injury so that you can actively make it healthy. Just doing what she was doing over and over again would not have done anything.
We know other energy practitioners that really used Reiki as like a foundation to know your own ability to help heal others. But now you have other attunements, as we talked about, as well as just your own confidence in knowing that you can go about it your own way when you're doing the energy healing part of it. And you're talking to both their spirit guides and your spirit guides, right? Like it's a combination.
Yes. And I can do it virtually too. And I find it actually stronger virtually because the person has to be very invested in the whole situation.
So it's like your training has really allowed you to almost go to the next dimension of being able to see exactly where to tune in to.
Yeah, it's so true. Even just signs around me. I have to tell you about it. I was on an airplane and the gentleman 2 seats over, he wasn't well. He grabbed his air sickness bag and I'm thinking, oh no. And his wife was sitting next to me. And so we took off. And then 10 minutes in, he's calling over the flight attendant and saying, you need to watch me. You need to keep tabs on me. I'm not feeling well and I don't know why. And the flight attendant was a little flippant and I'm looking at him. It was a male flight attendant. I'm like, dude, what is this? What's going on? He left. And then I sat and I meditated and I asked, should I get involved? And is there something I can help with? And what is it that I can help with? So 2 things happened. When I get this intuitive information, it's like hearing someone in the other room talking, but it was someone in the other room. It was maybe 20 people going, yes. And then I asked further, what is it that I'm helping with? And on the airplane, the craziest thing happened. Suddenly I heard conversations around me and the word anxiety came up 3 times. I never really hear conversations in an airplane, but all of a sudden just little bits came up and I'm thinking, okay, this I can help with. I asked the lady next to me, I said, hi, I actually introduced myself as an intuitive energy healer, which I don't do that often. And I'm starting to more. And I said, could you ask your husband if I can help him? And she goes, oh yeah, you can help him. No problem. I said, no, you have to ask him because I need his permission. And there's a little conversation and he goes, yeah. So I said to him, I just need you to breathe right now. So I said, I want you to breathe for the count of 4 in and for the count of 4 out. Nothing special, just the way little babies breathe. That's all you need to do. And I'm going to just sit over here and I'm going to do my thing. So I sent him distance healing, even though he was 2 over. And I basically just sent him calming, I imagined him floating on a river and just peaceful, and that all of his anxiety had drained out of him. And I just kept doing that and wrapping him in green healing light and just helping him to calm down. And then once I knew he was calmer, then I cleared all of his chakras and then I filled them up again and balanced them. And then about 15 minutes later, I feel this knock on the shoulder. He goes, I never knew breathing could be so helpful. And he goes, and then whatever you did after that, I don't know what you did, but it was great. So I was very happy to help him.
How many times are we sitting on an airplane or a subway or a bus, an office space, honestly, where we are taking on all of that energy without even knowing that we're doing?
Oh, totally. How fortunate they were and how he was to be sitting, which I'm sure was on purpose, 1 seat away from you.
It was pretty wild.
And an opportunity for you to really step into who you are.
And you allowed him to participate.
I think we've evolved so much that it's not enough to just say, heal me. We have to be participants in our healing. I was reading a book. I have it here because I wanted to discuss it. It's The Modern Bethesda by Dr. Newton. The reason I bring it up is he was a medical doctor and then an energy healer in the 1860s to probably the 1880s or 1870s anyway. That's when the book takes place. And it's really interesting because everyone that came to him, like he had droves and droves of people, stadiums of people come to him, and he would just do the laying of the hands the way Jesus and Buddha did, and they are instantly healed. And the book is full of all of these situations and wonderful healings, but I don't think it's happening anymore because I think we've evolved to be that participant in our healing, to go beyond and understand why we have the ailment we have.
Yeah, which actually leads us to asking you about universal energy and how it does flow, because that was part of how you started your whole journey. So what have you found about that?
It was so empowering to learn all this. I'm sure you've heard that energy follows intention. So a lot of this is about intention and gratitude. I think that's the most important part of it. Learn that if my intention comes from love and gratitude, that everything works out quite nicely. So about universal energy and how it flows, I would say it's available to all of us. And what I tell people who are asking me, come on, they're non-believers. And I say, you can hear my voice. You can hear the sound of my voice and it's traveling to you. That's energy. And the light bulb, that's light energy and it's coming toward us and you can see the light. So how come the energy coming through my hands isn't real? And then they feel it. So there's so many things and so many easy ways of looking at it. It's important. Everybody can do such simple things for themselves to make the energy flow through them on their own. So basically, as a healer, the attunement allow me to heal others. If someone doesn't have that attunement and doesn't use themselves as a channel for universal energy, then what happens is you end up using your own energy to heal somebody, which will deplete you, which will make you sick, which is not good for anybody. I guess what intuitive energy healing did for me versus Reiki was instead of a little dripping faucet, it was a fire hose. And that's what it did for me. And that was the difference in the power that I felt anyway. So it was amazing.
You answered it. And I would say too, just to your point about people feeling energy, one of the things that I know I like to tell people to do is to rub their hands together. Yeah. Do it for a minute and then break your hands apart a little bit. And you can feel like this ball of energy. And that's anybody. Like, we're not talking about people who've already been through attunements and so forth, like anybody. And so just that in itself is a tangible way of feeling your own energy inside of you and understanding we all have it.
And we're all inspired at times to put our hands on certain parts of our bodies, right? And to pay attention to what, like Robyn, she's laughing right now because I do it a lot. Like yes. I'll have something yes. under my neck or I'll have it around my throat just because it feels good, or I'll have it on my shoulder or on my palm or on my wrist. Like pay attention to where you're naturally putting your own energy into your body for relief. And that is like your body is just trying to relieve itself and give it its own sense of energy as well. It's not the way that we think it is. It's the day-to-day things that we do.
It is. And that's actually one of the first things I remember learning in my Reiki 1 class is that we intuitively will go into something if it's in pain, right? If yes. you've got a toothache or something, you'll go and you'll touch it. And that, again, is that intention of making it feel better.
Or like even I learned early on too, I think it's more like the Jinshin, is that if you hold your fingers, if you just hold them, how that sense of calm that you get in just holding those, because they're pressure points in your body. And that you can teach the little ones to do that when they're anxious, right? To hold your thumb, just hold on to it. And there's a sense of, I don't know, calm and ease that comes from that. So your body is just such a natural regulator of your emotions and speaks to you in different ways.
And for me, understanding what people are telling me, because we'll have a nice conversation and so that they can tell me what's going on. And then I'll tie in what my meditation brought me. And then I'll get validation about that meditation as well, which is very helpful. And then we'll discuss ways that I can help them. I'll give them tools to help relieve maybe a situation. And then I will heal. I will use healing.
That's helpful. And I know for Karen and we had separate sessions with you, both equally very powerful. And I know in mine, certain aspects that have stayed with me is first of all, because I very much can feel other people's energy, especially when I'm getting a healing. And one of the ways for me is that I immediately start to feel vibrating and then I start to see color. And I know if it's a powerful energy healing, if that starts to happen, and that started immediately happening. And then I was getting very distinct images. And the one that has stayed with me and really become a symbol in my everyday is that there was just, and I can picture it right now, this large wolf that came through in my session with you, Julie, that I feel so protected. And I also feel that energy within that wolf energy, that strength within myself. And it's so tangible in my brain, and almost like the wolf's face and the hair like blowing in the wind being next to me is just super cool. And has really stayed with me. And just that whole feeling, like I definitely needed that energy healing and that balancing within myself. It had been a while. And so those are the things for me that are markers of why we want to introduce you to everybody listening or watching, because it's powerful and it stays with you. And then, as you said, we had that conversation in the beginning about whatever was going on with me in my life. And then we talked about it after. Karen.
It was a little bit different. And I think what I love about the session we had, Julie, is that I think for somebody who is newer in the experience, what I remember so vividly is in that pre-meditation feeling of I was not alone. There was just that simple sense of there was someone else there besides me looking at me and there for me that was outside of me. And in that simplest sense, like so many people have never even experienced that. It's that there's outward energy that is there for me to tap into. And I think, again, what always comes up for me was the throat chakra of you seeing that need for me to clear that. And in that experience of that meditation ahead of time, of just being open to that support of there is other out there. In that meditation experience, of just feeling that presence of not being alone, it almost allowed me to have that leap of faith of, oh, okay, that's what that is. It's not that it's an energetic experience so much, but that there's actually this outside help that I can tap into for myself. Just that in itself was a wonderfully healing kind of feeling. And it was simple, but it was tangible.
And that's important. Sometimes the simplest are the most impactful.
It's the leap of faith, right? And I love that for someone who's just taking that tiny little leap into the energetic realm.
Yeah. And when you're working with clients, is it typically just one session, or are they usually also working with you more on a coaching with the intuitive and energetic work as well?
It's a bit of both, really. It depends on the situation and just how much time. And sometimes if it's a problem that's been going on for many years, it's hard to fix in just one session. It's like going to the gym and expecting to run a marathon the next day.
Right.
You know, things just don't happen that quickly. And so I always tell people we're removing layers upon layers. And I think it would be very difficult and hard on your body to heal so quickly. I have a client who's had several abdominal surgeries and has a lot of scar tissue. And I work on her very slowly, and she's very receptive and can feel. And this is a distance healing. And in our session, I said, okay, I'm going to go a little deeper here, and you got to let me know what's going on. And she got very emotional and said, I just felt so loved. I just felt this beautiful sense of love that she's never experienced that before in a healing. And if I can give that to somebody to help them release, I'm very humbled.
That's the other thing I think for people listening who haven't had the experience too, is like we were saying at the beginning, you're opening yourself up to a different realm of experience. And once you experience it, you're like, oh yeah, I get that. It's almost like a frequency level above of what we're all living on the day to day. And that we have that moment of being able to experience what is love, isn't it? It's love, what that actually feels like.
That healing energy is unconditional love from heaven.
Yeah.
That's my definition. You can call it what you may, but I call it unconditional love from heaven.
And for those who are foreign to that, it's hard to put your words to it. And that's probably why your client was crying, right? It was so different than experience. And you're balancing that out with the pain of the scar tissue and all that. It really is this bubbling up of release and encompassing that love that's there. And that's the healing part.
Yes, that is the healing part.
What is something that someone who is listening or watching right now can do on a daily basis to find more energetic balance in their life?
I'm going to give you two things. Breathe.
Breathe.
People breathe deeply. I think we get so caught up in everything that we forget to breathe deeply. And like the gentleman on the airplane, our parasympathetic nervous system kicks in when we do these beautiful deep breaths, and we're able to calm down. I tell people, if you're in front of people right now, I'm doing a lot of deep breathing. When someone makes you mad at the grocery store, if you're in a meeting, thing is, you can breathe because everyone's breathing. You're just going deeper instead of these shallow breaths. We're not running from a pterodactyl anymore. We don't have to have the shallow breaths that don't really serve us in the situation. So it helps. It's amazing to help release and prevent that anxiety overwhelm. If you can catch it before it happens, it's very helpful. So that is one. And then the other thing is you can do something really simple where you ground and you can clear yourself and protect yourself. And it's interesting. And everyone that I've been taught by, there's many ways of doing it, but I love this one. It's very simple, where you can imagine either an oak tree coming from the base of your spine and going down into the center of the earth. You can imagine it could also be a steel pillar, whatever you feel is strength. Okay. And grounding. So that's in the middle of the earth. And then you can imagine your body being cleared, and imagine that you're a big sponge or Swiss cheese or something holy. And this beautiful, warm waterfall is just washing all of the bad energy out, and it's going. Or you can imagine a beautiful wind clearing it out. After that, I always ask Archangel Michael for protection. So you can imagine simple things. You can imagine a dome around you. My two favorites are if you ever watch Wonder Woman 1984, when she has that amazing armor, just imagine that armor coming on you. You're suited up and it could be any color you want. The other thing is Iron Man in his costume, again, any color. And just, you can just say in the moment, you could say, Archangel Michael, suit up, please, or shields up, please. And that protection helps us all.
That's going to be added to my daily ritual.
And it's so easy.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
And what is something someone can do to better tap into their intuition on a daily basis?
I think meditation is the most amazing thing, just being quiet. And when I started out, I found meditation, 5 minutes of meditating. It was the first 5 minutes of meditation was the hardest thing ever. It was like me trying to run a mile after not having ran in forever. Yeah. And so I always tell people, set a timer and try to go 10 minutes, and then set a timer, try to go 12. There's so many guided meditations available. You can listen to any kind of music that you like for meditating, not hard rock, that's not going to work, but just nice, rhythmic, lyrical, anything to just get you zoned in. You can always just use breath if you need to. Sometimes laying in bed and just doing that wonderful breathing I'm trying to get everyone to do, actually breathing in bed and just listening to your body. And if something extremely urgent comes on, listen to it and then let it go. And then it's okay to actually sit in silence.
Do you set an intention before you go into meditation?
It depends. If I'm meditating about a situation or about a healing I'm about to do, I do. Sometimes it'll just be, what can you tell me that I need to know today?
I think for so many too, just inviting yourself to clear your mind and allow whatever to come in. And I think that's why running for me, when I meditate, I have an intention, but when I run, it's just, I'm just going to clear my mind. And that's when the best stuff comes, because I finally have a moment where I'm not trying to solve all the world's problems or go through the laundry list of all the things. I'm just literally in the zone, looking at nature, moving forward. And that's the best time to really be inspired by whatever comes.
Yeah, same with walking. And
walking.
It's that time for yourself to really connect in with your energy and then receive this universal energy really coming through as well. There is that, you're inviting that in by taking the moment. Either take those 10 minutes of meditating, or well, if you're running or walking, it really invites it in.
And connecting to that vibe, which you were talking about before, Julie, which is that almost higher frequency of living. Like we're on the day-to-day, even a lower frequency of just trying to get things done. But if you can invite that higher level, even if it is just for 10 minutes of just being there and being present in this more love invited energy, it does shift your whole day. It can't help but do that.
And it's self-care too.
Exactly. It's a gift you're giving yourself.
It is. And I always find that if I'm in a good place, then everyone else is too.
That's right.
Right.
It's true. You're totally right. It's that ripple effect to everyone else. And love yourself enough. I often think about a lot of the things I do for my daughter. I don't always do them for myself. And for me, I know that taking the 10 minutes, I do it in the morning typically, is what I need to set my day and connect in with my spirit. I love that visual you gave that I think you said Christine had given you, that interconnecting of the circle, right? I love that. that.
circles.
Because that is what I'm doing in the morning, is talking to my spirit, grounding for the day, all of those things. And I think we can't stress enough to everyone is just try it and make it a non-negotiable for you for a few weeks and see what happens. And it really, in my opinion, it's life-changing and it's free. And the most inspired thoughts come that way, right? Because they really are gifts from above.
Go for the walk. Just go for the walk and allow yourself to just be outside or wherever it is that you are, and then see what comes. Like, start so simply.
I become meditative when I'm pulling weeds. What's anything automatic is just
Some people, it's cleaning the house, it's sweeping the
That's
floor,
right.
driving.
Yeah.
Julie, thank you for following the whispers and really doing your own work that is now helping to heal all of us. And I know you're going to continue to do that. And we are so grateful that we can work with you and support all that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And you can find out more about working with Julie and all of her offerings at energyhealingpathways.com. You can also follow her on Instagram at Energy Healing Pathways. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.